Now, another episode of Real Estate Stories. Hey, everybody, Robert Greenblatt here with another episode of Real Estate Stories. So, this one is interesting. If you are an agent, you should be able to relate to this. If you are a buyer or a seller and have been in the thick of it in the last year or two, you can probably relate to this as well. So, here we go. And guys, I really would love to know if you've experienced this, because I'm unfortunately seeing more and more of it as the market remains nutty, I guess, for a better word. So here's the deal. Recent listing that we had on our team had a lot of activity one weekend, perfectly normal, about 50 something showings, about 50 something sets of guests through an open house. And then of course on Monday, we had a bucket of offers. So everything was put into a spreadsheet, so it was easy to compare. Extensive conversations with the seller, clarifying any of the fine points in the offers, because today's offers are not just about price. They're price and all kinds of creative terms that come along with that. So we decide, okay, offer number one, we're going to pick the best offer, what we consider number one. We go to pick that offer, and I have some notes here so I can keep my own memory straight on this. Call that agent. Everyone's excited. They're excited. Apparently the family's excited. And then I get a phone call the next morning. Well, we're not going to move forward with that property because they didn't like the property taxes. They thought about it and they were concerned about the property taxes on this house. Okay, the buyer was actually the agent. So come on, man, you should have known better. All right, moving on to number two. Here we go. Number two decided that they wanted to remove the escalation clause that they had in their offer. So an escalation clause increases a buyer's offer up to a certain amount by a certain increment, not to exceed a ceiling amount. So that's the details we can go over in another video, or you could hit me up and I could be happy to explain it to you, but that's the gist of it. So when I got the call back on that one, they decided to remove their escalation clause, which was pretty significant. So it took their offer from here, whoop, to there. So they were out because they were no longer really buyer number two, because their offer was not what it was when they put it in. Buyer number three. So buyer number three was interesting because first the buyer's agent says, hey, the spouse needs to see the house because only one of the spouses needs to see the house because only one of them saw it that previous weekend. Okay, no problem. Easy to show. That house, this particular property was vacant, so that was no issue. And then a few hours later, that changed to something's happening at the job for one of them, so they can't move forward. Pick a story, please, and just go with it. Buyer number four, here we go. They had delayed signing the contract because supposedly somebody was traveling. And even though everything now is done electronically and you could literally sign contracts right from your smartphone, that caused like a day and a half delay. And then before the second spouse signed on that one, they were trying to change some of the terms of their offer. And while they were doing that, then that kind of morphed into, yeah, no thanks, we're not interested. Again, pick one story, please. All right, so that was who's playing along here? That was number four. Number five. All right. Number five was wild and actually a shame. So those buyers apparently were super excited. The next morning, I get a phone call that the night before, one of the buyers slipped, fell, and broke an elbow, which, as if that wasn't enough to be concerning, while in the hospital, that particular buyer, they detected a heart arrhythmia. So deal's off. So that's a shame. That's just terrible timing. And Just a shame. So that was number 5. So we're about 8-9 days into this now since we stopped receiving offers. Number 6, here we go. So number 6 decided they still wanted the house, but remember the home inspection threshold terms that we put in place? Well, we had a dollar amount that was up here for our threshold. We're going to change it to here. Is that okay? Well, it's not for me to decide, but let me speak with the sellers. So at this point, as you could probably imagine, the sellers are just worn out from all of this, back and forth for probably 10 days at this point, because each one of these took about a day to 2 days, depending on the situation. So the sellers said, okay, because they just didn't want to go further down the list. They were worn out and really did not just want to start all over and put this property back on the market. So I know are crazy emotions running rampant out there in this market. I know that some people are just desperate. I know more than anything, a lot of people are so frustrated. I know the buyers are frustrated. Believe me, as a buyer's agent, I know the agents are frustrated. It's frustrating on every single side of this industry right now. As busy as it is and as great as it can be, there are so many emotions running rampant, and it's emotionally and physically exhausting. But guys, when we have offers, we have to stick by them. You know, as an agent, when we put an offer out there, we have to be sure that our client is going to stand by that offer in the next couple of days, or at least just for the couple of days that it's going to take to go to the highest and best scenario and to have a seller make a decision. Because having a list like this and having to go through this, literally, we went through 5 sets of contracts to get a signed contract with buyer number 6. And buyer number 6 wasn't even written at the terms that the offer was presented in. So I would love to hear from you guys. Again, it's Robert Greenblatt here, another episode of Real Estate Stories. Thank you for joining.